So do join the conversation on News at 10. Tonight, go to our social media pages. It is News on TV3 for Facebook, News on TV3 for Twitter as well. We settle now for the big one. Still watching News at 10 with me, Edward Kwabi. Now, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union says it will soon petition the Attorney General and forward documents it claims are evidence of corrupt practices at COCOBAD to Shraj. The union is asking for the removal of the Chief Executive of COCOBAD, Dr. Stephen Opuni, and says that over $25,000 or $24,000 have been spent on international travels alone.
Workers of COCOBAD and the West African Mills Company, WAMCO, led by the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, demonstrated demanding the removal of the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Stephen Opuni. They accused the CEO of practices that are killing the cocoa industry. According to the ICU, the Chief Executive Officer spent over $24,000 on international travels alone without approval from the board. It again stated that the Chief Executive Officer used over 600,000 cedis to renovate his apartment in Accra.
24 years occupied, the former Chief Executive, occupied that for barely 4 months. Now, they gave the place to Stephen Opuni. A renovation that has been done there is running over 600,000 Ghana cedis. The gate alone is $175,000. His travel expenses alone, one trip cost the COCOBAD over $24,000.
ICU again claims it has forwarded its evidence to the Attorney General's office and will soon head to Shira to defend its case.
This information, some of them are before the Minister of Chief Justice and Attorney General already. Okay, so for why those information have not been given hearing, because the guys are willing, let them call us, we'll come and give the hearing.
We sought to find out how the wranglings between COCOBAD and ICU could be resolved.
If Dr. Stephen Opuni had agreed to come to the table for us to discuss, okay, then there will be a focus as to which direction are we going. You see, the kind of punitive transfer we've spoken about, is that bad that if the entire, marketing department, audit department could be wiped out and new faces are put there because they have raised questions of administrative integrity.
Meanwhile, ICU has already presented a petition to the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations to resolve the impasse.
So that is exactly what ICU is saying. Now, the chairman of the Supreme Consultative Council of COCOBAD Workers, Alhaji Idris Hassan, has also accused the leadership of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union and the General Agricultural Workers Union of staging a demonstration with fake COCOBAD staff. He said COCOBAD workers would stand up against any external force which interfere with the affairs of COCOBAD.
The chairman of the Supreme Consultative Council of COCOBAD Workers, Alhaji Idris Hassan, was reacting a day after hundreds of ICU and GAU workers demonstrated and petitioned the president through the employment minister to remove the CEO of COCOBAD, Dr. Stephen Opuni, from office.
Dr. Opuni is not accountable by way of channel of communication to the Minister of Labour Relations. No. We have channel of communication, and in COCOBAD, the management, then after the management, we have the board of directors. From the board of directors, our sector minister happened to be the Minister for Finance. And they are abreast with these issues that I'm talking to. It's more or less an attack, not on the unionized workers of the industry, but an attack on this challenging enterprise of Ghana COCOBAD.
He denied workers of COCOBAD joined in the demonstration.
Look at the placards at the media. In what? Do we have COCOBAD workers in what? The answer is no. COCOBAD workers are demonstrating, calling for the removal of Dr. Opuni. That is not true. Now in Sunyani, brothers and sisters, our workers have to seize the placards and came out with a press conference. Then just at Takrade, same happened. They collected it and gave it to people that are not cocoa industry workers.
So we're trying the lines to reach Mr. Godwin Adamwini, who is a labor expert, to comment on this very issue. Is the feud between the ICU and, of course, the Supreme Council of the COCOBAD. We're trying so hard to reach Mr. Godwin Adawini, who earlier agreed to speak to us on this very developing story. With me, Edward Kwabe. Now, earlier we told you a story about the ICU and GAU urging the COCOBAD to sack their CEO, Dr. Steve Opuni, earlier. But COCOBAD is also insisting that workers of the Supreme Council of COCOBAD also insisting that their CEO shouldn't go, Dr. Stephen Opuni shouldn't go. We've been joined on the phone lines by Mr. Kofi Gabor, who is a labor expert, to help us dissect this very issue. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Now, sir, you have been monitoring this wrangling between the ICU, GAU, and of course the Supreme Council of the COCOBAD. What do you make of this very wrangling?
Thank you very much. I think that is an issue that can be resolved. Workers have made a decision to leave the unions they belong to, and the unions are not happy about it. They are suspicious that there are some underhand dealings in the whole scenario involving management, so they are not happy about it. I think that if the union suspects that it's management that is instigating the breakaway of the workers, they could raise that issue, because the law provides clearly that managements are not supposed to interfere in the formation of unions or in the activities of unions. So they could report the conduct of the management to the National Labour Commission for the matter to be settled amicably. And otherwise, I think that the issue is being dragged unnecessarily.
You are a labor expert. What will you recommend that should be done? Apart from that, among the two parties, which of them do you think has flouted the industrial regulation law?
The fact of the matter is that workers have a right to form or join any union of their choice. And unless the unions can prove that management is the one behind the withdrawal of workers from the union they belong to, I don't think they have any case. They should be able to establish it. Otherwise, they should do some introspection and find out why workers are leaving the organization. When people belong to an organization and they are leaving, you need to find out why they are leaving. Is it because somebody is telling them without any basis for them to leave the organization, or there is a real basis for leaving the organization? So they need to research that and make a decision. I mean, if you manage any organization, that's what you have to do. But to go and blame somebody as the reason for people leaving the union, you need to have a certain basis to do that, and they need to establish that basis clearly. Having said that, I will also add that every management is interested in the union its members belong to, even though they might not show that openly, because the unions that workers belong to have an influence in the industrial relationship or practice in that company. Every management is interested in the kind of union that workers belong to. So I would not be surprised if management is showing that interest in some subtle ways. But then the unions would have to prove a point that this is really happening.
In your view, do you think that government has been too quiet on this very matter?
I don't think government has any serious role to play in this. I mean, I don't think government has any role to play in this. The unions are making an allegation. There is a body established to deal with these allegations. That's the National Labour Commission. They must present the allegations to the National Labour Commission for them to adjudicate and make a decision. I mean, why are they going to government? I don't understand why they are going to government. You've made your allegation. It has to be proven. And if it is established, then a case can be made against the management of Ghana COCOBAD. Otherwise, I do not see why you want to go to government. COCOBAD has a board. First of all, the first step I want to think is that, well, submit a petition to the board. If they don't respond favorably, go to the National Labour Commission, submit your grievances for them, and expect them to make a decision on the allegation that you have made. I don't think government has a role to play in this.
Very well. We're grateful for your time. Kofi Davo is a labor expert, and we've been speaking to him about the wrangling between the ICU, GAU, and of course the Supreme Council of COCOBAD Workers Union.